Welcome to The Real Dope, a podcast for anyone walking alongside someone battling addiction, based on the powerful book, The Real Dope on Dealing with an Addict, by sisters Elizabeth Brand and Meridith Elliott Powell. Each episode will explore practical strategies, share authentic stories, and provide the honest guidance. Let's begin today's journey and turn survival into strength.
Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell. You know what time it is. It is 11 a.m. Eastern, Thursday morning. It's one of my favorite times of the week because it is time for the Real Dope podcast, the show where we discuss the show designed for those who love, those support, and those who just have to, quite frankly, deal with
Mhm.
loving an addict. I'm hanging out here with my sister, Beth Brand. See? Now, I always like to remind you we are not therapists. We are not healthcare specialists. We are not addiction specialists. We're just two people who've lived the life that you're going through and wanted to design a show for people who love, support, and have to deal with addicts. So, Beth, what's on tap for today?
Well, today, we're gonna talk about something. I was reading a book about a psychology book about something else, and they started talking about trauma and complex trauma. And I thought we could talk about how that related to what we experience as people who live with people who have addiction issues.
So, as if it's just not trauma, you got to have complex trauma
Well,
too.
you'll know when I define it for you, you'll see the difference and why I would define what we live through as complex trauma.
I think this is going to be such an important show because trauma is, in my opinion, something you have that you most of the time don't even realize you have it. And it can come out and impact you in some really hurtful ways. Beth, why don't you take it away? And I'm
Okay.
interested in what the difference is and how you would describe trauma and
So
complex.
I was reading a book by Laura Anderson, Dr. Laura Anderson, who is a psychologist, and she it was talking about trauma and complex trauma. And I also there's a really good explanation in this other book that I read, which I love because it's beautifully written. Stephanie Fu, What My Bones Know, and she speaks mostly about abuse over, childhood abuse over time with the trauma, but anyway, so trauma stems from an event that happened to you and how you experience that event. So it's like if you've been robbed at gunpoint, or you were in a car accident, or like Hurricane Helene last year
Hmm.
here in Asheville, like that is a trauma, that is an event, and just because some people are traumatized by an event doesn't mean other people are. Being robbed at gunpoint, maybe you're like, "Eh, it didn't matter. I got over it. It was fine." But for other people, that traumatizes them and it lives somewhere in their body. Complex trauma, which leads to complex PTSD, is not limited to one event. It occurs over and over again. And the threat hangs on between events, like somebody who is living with an abusive spouse and they get hit over and over again, and then you live in between it, and you never really know when it's gonna happen. Spousal abuse, if you're part of a cult, you're probably living with that kinda trauma probably keeps you in line, that complex trauma. And so as people who live with people who, have addiction issues, we're walking on eggshells every single day. We never know when the bottom is gonna drop out, and it drops out on us all the time. And so that leads to a complex trauma that lives with us all the time, and that's the difference.
What is it that causes trauma? Like, what is it that like, how do you know if you're experiencing trauma?
Well, I don't really know because 'cause I'm really not a psychologist, but what I would say was it lives in your body. You know how, like, when you get upset because you go to a party and you start counting people's drinks?
Mhm.
Symptom of somebody who's been traumatized. It's living in your body. You're not getting over it.
Yeah, do you think there's an ability to get over trauma?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you have, therapy, I mean, I think both of us are better,
Mhm.
but I think we still become traumatized. I think our enabling is a reaction to the trauma.
I would agree with that. I
Yeah.
think there's
We're
you know,
trying to get everything safe and everybody in order again.
Yeah, I was talking to ChatGPT, and I was asking ChatGPT about
That's bad,
trauma.
Meredith.
Well, I find it incredibly valuable. Well, listen to it broke trauma out into buckets. It broke it into emotional, psychological, relationship, physical, and then generational trauma. I thought that was really interesting is that because I feel like some of the emotional trauma is the guilt and the shame, the broken trust. Like some of that that's an area where I feel like I have been able to heal,
Mm,
in the sense that I certainly don't have guilt and, shame over it. I certainly have been able to build trust back with people. I still have a lot of fear and anxiety depending upon the situation that I'm in that I'm aware of it, which I feel like is progress, but I don't know that I will ever get past it. But I feel like relationship and family trauma is something I have been able to heal from. I don't feel like I suffer so much from codependency. I don't put myself in a position of role reversal of feeling like I have to take care of other people. And then I feel like a really big one that I had trauma that I had was isolation. I mean, definitely withdrawing. I think it feel about like when we were married addicts, how tiny our
mhm,
world, um,
mhm.
our world was when we were experiencing that
But we have generational trauma for
big
sure,
generational
around
trauma.
addiction. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what our book is really about, was
yeah.
the generational trauma around addiction.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that and I think that's probably the important thing to take from the show is that if you don't deal with your own trauma, you will pass it down.
Yeah. As our mother did, and as her mother did, and as our father's parents did.
Yeah.
And I don't know what his parents were like, but I mean, our great-grandparents were like, but, you can just see that coming down right through the ages.
One thing I wanted to talk about as it relates to trauma. I thought this was interesting that ChatGPT brought up about it, but it was reality distortion. Is that is a form of trauma is that you just don't see things for how they are, that it's not necessarily denial, it's just it's a form of trauma that you're not able to really see because you've been in the situation so long, you can't see how bad the
That it
situation.
almost seems when you're in it, it almost seems normal to you. Like,
Yeah,
you think that this is, like, if you always had parents who fought, that would be normal, or if yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting because I do think that that's true, that you can't see your way out. Like, I thought the fact that Edward didn't drink, he only did drugs,
yeah,
like, was a good thing. Like, "Oh, I'm not marrying an alcoholic." Like, that is insane,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. But how do you even begin to recognize, do you think, that you have trauma?
Well, I mean, you hit your own bottom, like they say, but you hit a bottom. You're like, "How can I live like this anymore?" Just like the person we interviewed last week she was talking about is like, "When is it not worth it anymore?"
Mhm.
When is this so traumatic, it's just not making sense? Like, your life's not making sense. And I think that's when you start to change,
Yeah.
or you
I
start looking for change. I don't think you change, I think you become so hurt, you start to question yourself.
But I feel like trauma is really hard to recognize because, you're so caught in your own trap. Like, I don't think I was aware that I was counting people's drinks. I don't think I was I remember, Rob and I, when we were first dating, we weren't even married yet, and we went to a party, and it was a dinner party, but they didn't serve dinner until 10 o'clock
Mm,
that night, and everybody was so drunk by the time we had dinner. And when we finished having dinner, they brought out a bottle of port,
mm,
and our brothers used to drink port,
yeah,
all the time, and when we got in the car to go home, we were way on the mountain in North Asheville. I probably got a mile down the road, and I made Rob pull over, and I had to throw up, and I didn't realize but what that was a violent reaction. It was trauma to
it
the
was trauma.
situation. Yeah, it was situation that I had been in, and had probably been building all night, but, but the moment they brought out that bottle of port, I obviously just went back to so many Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners that had been horrible in my childhood. I just went right back to that place.
Yeah, so I guess what we're saying here is to like watch those physical reactions because even if you're not mentally aware of what's going on for you, you might like for me, Peter and I of course go to a lot of concerts and a lot of festivals and stuff. And my favorite ones are the dry ones because even though you can still have like cocktails in the parking lot, people aren't drunk when they're watching this show,
Mhm.
and that's just so nice. But a lot of them 'em aren't like that, and they have beers for sale and that kinda thing, and then people start to get, they start to dance, and they're not really great on their feet, and I just start to get so nervous, I can no longer watch the show. All I can do is watch the people, and that is just, to me, a sign of being having been traumatized and not being able to get out of it,
Yeah.
That's a sign that something's wrong.
Yeah, I also think when you first realize that you've been heavily traumatized, that it's fine to not put yourself in those situations that
Oh,
create
yeah.
trauma. The hope is that you eventually become strong enough that you can get there, but at the beginning, not to put yourself in those situations because it isn't healthy for you and it slows down your healing and the things that you need to work on.
Yeah, at first, when I first left, Edward, I couldn't be around near any kinda pot, legal or not, or anything, and then now I don't care. I mean, I don't do that kinda thing, but I wouldn't hate it or anything. I wouldn't judge another person, but at first, I couldn't even be around anyone who alluded to it.
Yeah, it was just because it creates that reaction in you. I
Mhm.
think another sign of, trauma that I have recognized is when I become incredibly controlling. If Rob comes in and, found myself sniffing a glass to see if there's been alcohol in it or something, like that, well, it's just
Yeah, 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 yeah.
opening yourself. It's just all trauma. It's just that, like, he's never given me a reason not to trust him, I just don't. You
I
know what
know.
I mean? Like, that that's certainly not all the time, but
Okay,
you're
so let
having
me
that
ask
moment.
you this.
Mhm.
So do you try to explain that to him?
Oh, yeah, I basically what and I told him this before we got married, is I said, "There are parts of me that are so damaged that, I do the best I can, but at sometimes I just bounce somewhere that I can't get it." One of my favorite fights we ever had, not that I have favorite fights, but my first husband, I mean, literally just was drunk all the time, completely drunk. And if we ever needed to go somewhere, he wasn't able to go. And Rob and I were going to a party, and he came home 5 minutes before we were supposed to go to the party, and we were gonna be late, and he had been working, like he'd been at the office seeing patients, and he's bald. It takes him 5 minutes to get ready to go anywhere. And I screamed at him. I couldn't believe he'd come through the door late. I was so mad at him, and he's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I said, "I'm not fighting with you right now, but I can't stop. So you just need to go get in the shower." I mean, it was so clear I was not having that argument with him, but I could not stop myself from being that mad. So I was as mad at him for seeing patients as I was for Doug drinking 2 bottles of vodka and being drunk off his butt. It was so irrational. So I think when your behavior is incredibly irrational, it's a
Mhm,
sign of trauma.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's good advice for people too, once they know their triggers and they know not their triggers so much as when they start to spin,
Yeah.
which I definitely know as well, and which I definitely tell my husband, my current husband, Peter now, and, I definitely make sure that he knows it's not him that I don't trust, and I actually had to have this, conversations with my child. Like,
Mhm.
when he would when he was starting to drive and stuff like that, like, I had a tracker on his phone, and people just thought that was just nuts, but I couldn't function if I didn't because of my worries, and I made sure and even though that's like sick mom, I made sure that my son knew that it's not that I didn't trust him, it's that I couldn't function, that I was neurotic, and he totally accepted that and
Yeah,
still accepts it to this day.
I think that's really good advice is to basically tell people, like, to be honest with people about how how to deal with you. Like your son and I always have the conversation of, just tell your mother everything. Just
Exactly.
tell her everything. Because if she finds anything out after or there's a missing
Yes,
piece of information, we're gonna make her crazy. So
yes.
just tell her everything. And so like you and that makes it easy to
Mhm.
to deal with, right?
And
Like
he
so
knows it's not him, just like Rob knows it's not him that you're yelling at for working. It's something in you that's spinning. Like, sometimes I just have if I'm not having a good day, I need to be the one who drives, even though Peter is probably a better driver than I am. Well, he is
Mhm.
a better driver than most people are better drivers, but I need that control because
Right.
that's my enabling, like, popping back up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I also think when you've experienced trauma or you're questioning whether you have, just, really be mindful of your own behavior. I'm late all the time. I'm always late. But I get so angry with people for being late. And I think to myself, that is I mean, it's obviously some kind of control issue or something like that, but I don't act on it, but I think it's interesting to watch, to really watch my own behavior. It's also interesting to me, to watch my behavior of still at this age and how much I've been through, how desperately I want to be liked and the
Mhm.
lengths that I go through. I'm looking for external approval so hard that is ridiculous from people I don't even care about. That that how quickly I go into the weakened position.
Mm.
So I learn a lot just from watching my own behavior as it relates to those things.
I think for me, that same reaction goes back to, like, the truth, like, I need to know the truth, I need to know the truth, I don't care what it is, I need to know it, and so, like, I have to really watch myself, like, if I do get online, which I'm off of all social media now, but if I did get online, why am I telling the person that? Why do I
Yeah,
need to make sure they know the truth? Who are they to me? What do I care? Like, give it up, but that's, like, another reaction. And then I and I think that you do have to understand that living with somebody who has addiction does put you into complex trauma because it's a condition that's always on your brain. It's always in your body, it's always in your brain, sitting there with you. It's not some one thing that happens and then, "Oh, so I'm afraid to walk down the street because I've been held up before." It's something that and I think because it happens to you every day and all the time, and from us, from childhood into adulthood, we don't even recognize when it's crazy.
right, right. It's the other thing I think that I feel like the biggest thing that trauma took from me was was the ability to trust my intuition, the ability to listen to myself because you get gaslighted
Mhm.
so much. And I think I think that's really, really, really important. And so just taking that time to trust and listen to your intuition.
Yeah, well, I think that's a hard journey back
Yeah, yeah,
because you get, and as I've said here before, and I've said to you many times, I got to the point where I didn't even know what to put on in the morning
right.
because everything I'd ever thought was questioned.
Yeah,
And it's very confusing when you're living with somebody who lies to you all the time,
yes.
and people who have addictions are the best liars in the whole world.
Yeah, you lose that ability to trust yourself, and you've got to you really have to get back there. That is probably the one that I have worked at the most, and that's probably the most important because you're gonna continue we all continue to have addicts in our life, whether they're addicts. People just have addictive behavior, whether they
Mhm,
ever took an
mhm,
alcohol or a drug, and this thing of trusting your gut and having confidence in that is one of the most important things to have.
mhm. I agree with that, and if you've grown up with somebody who's had an addiction and your other parent was an enabler like ours, I mean, we lost that I lost that from an early age,
Right,
trusting in
right.
myself,
Yeah, but it's
because I
just
was always told I was wrong.
you and I were just talking in the green room about the situation. My husband just ended up going to Duke for something. We went because, he said to me, "I'll just get a second opinion locally." And I'm like, I mean, I'm so strong in my belief now when I know something's wrong and we need to look another direction. Like, that is
Yeah.
so powerful, and that's probably one of the biggest, that's probably one of the biggest things that gets taken from you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm. You
you
get
know?
stuck in a way of thinking, in a way that they're thinking and being lied to, and you can't tell which way is up. And somebody said I actually think it was, Oprah Winfrey, and somebody was on it. I don't even remember. I mean, this is 100 years ago. And they said, "Of course you believe him. He's your husband. And you love
Yeah,
him, and you keep thinking he's the person he was, and he's just not." And,
yeah,
or of course you believe him. He's your father, and he
right.
loves you. But when the addiction takes over, you're not dealing with that same person.
Yeah. No, you're not you're not at all. And I think that's important too to basically say, to give yourself like because I felt the same way. I was like, "How could I be such an idiot?" The writing was on the wall. But the thing
Mhm.
is, I would rather be somebody who loved, um, who trusted the person I loved rather than somebody who didn't.
Me
Like
too,
it's
and
yeah,
I'm still gullible, and I'd rather be gullible.
me too.
Yeah,
Me too. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Agreed.
So,
Yeah.
now that we know what complex trauma is and that we suffer from it, what do we do about it?
I would practice a form of meditation in the morning or just a time of quieting the mind so that you can begin to recognize the trauma.
Yeah, you start to feel yourself again,
Mhm.
just giving yourself that, and even if you only start with, like, 3 minutes,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll start to feel yourself again and you start to reconnect because, as I've said, like, several times, the trauma definitely lives in your body. Your body knows. That's
Yeah.
why Meredith, threw up after that dinner party, and that's why when I see people who are really drunk and I start to get nervous, I tense up and I can't like, I freeze, and I just start watching them and I can't be about myself anymore. So the trauma is in your body, you just have to pay attention to, where it is. I mean, everything comes back to awareness, right?
Mhm, it does, it
Yeah.
really and I was listening to a podcast this morning about a guy that, was talking about they did a study and they said that, one of the most important factors in, success is luck. And then you at that point, you think, "Well, gosh, I'm not lucky." And he said, "You need to" he said, "You can luck chooses people who believe that are optimistic. Luck chooses people who will give the mind space to find the luck that's there." And he talked probably the whole podcast on was how you can call luck to you. And but the longest part he did about the importance of quieting the mind, of like the mind is there to help you and to give it that space to let the things in that you need. So I think that's very, very important.
Because when you occupy with running around trying to solve problems that haven't even happened yet, I mean, if you're anything like me, when I was living with somebody who was, actively addicted, my brain was always 10 steps ahead, you
Mhm.
know? Even
Yeah,
when I planned my whole wedding to, uh, Edward, my first wedding, to make sure that nobody had to drive anywhere. I mean,
right.
that was what I was planning my wedding about. That's, like, so crazy.
Yeah.
Not what I wanted or where I wanted to have it. I was making sure that none of the alcoholics in my life had to drive anywhere.
Right. You're so preoccupied with, I know I've said this before on the podcast, but I remember daddy coming home really drunk and he was raising hell the very few times that he came home like that. And mother ran around closing all the windows because she didn't want the neighbors to
Yeah.
hear. And
Yeah.
you're just like, that is such a great example of trauma. Like that was not the problem,
No.
right?
No.
Like who gives a damn who hears it at this point? We have real troubles in this
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
but she couldn't see it, and so I think those are really good places to start. I think the other thing is that, and you've given me this advice so many times, is to look at your life through the lens of a friend that you were giving advice to, and it's so much easier to see the insanity that you're living in that's become normalized to you.
Yeah. Like, step outside of yourself, look at the situation, and ask yourself if you were your friend, what you would tell yourself. And even better, like for me, because I like to put things in black and white, if write it out, and then it really looks ridiculous,
Yeah.
and then you're really like, "This isn't normal and this isn't good."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I think the other thing is that, I think just Don't worry about whether you have trauma or not, because the truth is you do. But but just start to study trauma, start to learn about trauma, and it's through studying and learning it that you'll start to see it in yourself.
And it's not so much that, oh, oh, I have trauma, oh, I have PTSD, oh, da da da. It's that once you know it, once you have a little label for it and you know it and you can start to see it, you can start to heal it. If
Yeah.
you don't call it out and you don't call out the root of it, find the root of it and call it out, you're never going to heal. It's going to follow you around for the rest of your life. It's going to keep popping up and causing you problems. Even
Mhm.
if the person that you love who has the addiction is no longer with you or has gotten cured, or you're not helping them if you're still living in your trauma, if you're still traumatized by what's happened to you.
Yeah, completely, and so I think that, just to, and to realize that it I think you said it so well, is that to to kind of give yourself permission to have it.
Mhm,
Like, not to like, I know there are certain traumas I will not leave this world, like, I will never be able to be in a marital relationship with somebody or an intimate relationship with somebody who drinks heavily. I can't. And heavily to me is past 2 glasses of wine. I can't do it. And I'm a much better person if you don't drink at all. That's
mhm,
far more settled. I don't think I'll leave this world that way. So I think that but and it's okay to give the permission for that. It's okay to set your boundary there.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't think
Any
I don't think I'll leave this world, not being a nervous person. But I know it, and when I can warn the people who are closest to me about it, they don't feel like, "Oh my gosh, she's off her rocker," or feel bad as if they've done something, like I don't trust them, because it's not
yeah.
about that.
All right. Any thoughts on what you wanna cover next time?
What do you wanna cover? Do you have something?
I had something I was thinking about, doing a show on why your recovery matters. On
Okay, I
on
like
y
that.
Yeah, on really that, really focusing the show on the enablers' recovery, and I like
Yeah,
stating it as recovery because
yeah,
I think we have to realize, it's just like addicts are in recovery the rest of their lives. I certainly feel like I'm in recovery for the rest of
yes.
my life. So, but I think it's important to know, it's kind of like I do a lot of work in the business space, and while it's fabulous to help men be successful, it's so incredible to help women be successful because when women are successful, it reverberates so much further.
Hmm,
Women raise up their communities, they raise up the people around them. They've done all these studies in third world countries that if you take money that you're going to invest, if you give it to a female entrepreneur versus a male entrepreneur, the impact that it will have long term and how it goes out. I think enablers are the same way, that
mhm.
if we can recover first, it's going to have an unbelievable, such a big spread of impact, positive impact, even more than the addict's recovery will have.
Yeah, I think that they've, like, so ignored that. And I love seeing that, like, the people are not ignoring that anymore, that rehab centers are paying more attention to it. They're not great at it yet, but they're definitely paying more attention to it.
Yeah, yeah. So, we'll cover that next week. All right, remember, join us every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you right back here next week. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.